Chosen one, pause. Because the moment you stop, heaven leans in. This is not a casual moment. This is not another piece of content drifting through your day. Something in your spirit responded, and heaven recognized it instantly. You feel it rising in you, the subtle, electric awareness that the atmosphere around you has shifted, and it shifted the very second you chose obedience. You have obeyed in silence. You have obeyed in shadows. You have obeyed in deep emotional wounds no one else ever saw. You obeyed even when obedience felt like loss, and heaven saw every moment. Angels recorded every quiet surrender, every painful yes, every private battle you won without applause. You thought you were fighting alone, but you weren't. The courts of heaven were watching your faithfulness, and because you obeyed, heaven has initiated movement around your life. Chosen one. Something is clearing around you. You feel it. The tension in the spiritual atmosphere is loosening. What once resisted you is weakening. What once confused you is dissolving. The fog you walked through for seasons is finally lifting. And it is not random. It is not luck. It is divine response. Heaven's answer to the obedience you offered when it cost you the most. There are moments when God allows pressure to refine you, and then there are moments when God steps in, rearranges everything, and clears what you were never designed to fight alone. Right now, you are standing inside one of those supernatural interventions. This is where the unseen becomes active. This is where angels step forward. This is where blockages collapse without your hands touching them. This is where paths appear where there used to be walls. But before you step further into this revelation, you must anchor yourself in a word that has followed your spirit long before you clicked this message, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the book of Joshua, chapter 9, verse 9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord, your God, will be with you wherever you go. Let that sink into your bones, not as a comforting phrase, but as a divine decree. God is with you wherever you go. Not sometimes, not only on good days, not only when you feel strong, wherever you go. That means He walked with you into the heartbreak. He walked with you into the confusion. He walked with you into the nights when you felt abandoned. You obeyed even when you couldn't feel Him, but He was there. And because you obeyed in the dark, He is rewarding you in the light. Chosen one. Heaven saw your secret battles. Heaven saw you reject temptations that tried to drag you back into old versions of yourself. Heaven saw you silence your anger when you could have shouted. Heaven saw you protect your purity, your heart, your integrity. Heaven saw you give when it hurt. Heaven saw you forgive when they didn't apologize. Heaven saw you stay faithful when everything around you told you to quit. Now the angels are clearing your path. What you're feeling is not imagination. It's alignment. What's shifting is not coincidence. It's orchestration. Angels are removing obstacles you didn't have the strength to move. They are cutting off attacks you didn't even see. They are shutting the mouths of people who spoke against you in secret. They are clearing emotional debris that kept you stuck. They are pushing back spiritual darkness that once pressed against your mind. The evidence is already beginning to show. Sudden clarity, sudden peace, sudden boldness, sudden release. Watch how people begin responding differently to you without knowing why. Watch how opportunities begin recognizing your name. Watch how places that once rejected you begin making room for you. This is spiritual clearing, angelic activity, divine rearrangement. And before we go deeper, pause. Heaven always responds to recognition. If your spirit is resonating with this message, if something deep inside you is saying, "This is for me," then take this prophetic action. Like this message. Share it so another chosen one can awaken. Subscribe so you don't miss the words meant for your destiny. And comment 111 as a sign that you are stepping into the cleared path heaven is preparing. This is only the beginning. The angels are forming ranks. And in the next section, you will understand why the spiritual realm has shifted so dramatically on your behalf. You feel it before you see it. Chosen one, the quiet but undeniable sense that something in the unseen has taken position around your life. As you step forward, the atmosphere doesn't just shift, it arranges itself. There is order forming where chaos once surrounded you. There is alignment happening in places where confusion used to reign, and deep in your spirit, you can sense it. Angels have stepped into formation. They have not come casually. They have not come quietly. They have come with purpose, with assignment, with holy precision. Your obedience in the previous season activated movement in the invisible realm. And now heaven's warriors are aligning themselves to clear what once stood against you. This is not imagination. This is orchestration. You may not hear wings, but you feel protection. You may not see faces, but you feel presence. You may not witness them physically, but you feel the shift of spiritual authority forming around you. There is a reason the enemy fought you so intensely. There is a reason you felt pressure that made no sense. There is a reason your spirit felt the tremors of warfare, even on quiet days. The enemy sensed angelic movement before you did. He recognized that God was preparing to elevate you, protect you, and position you. And in desperation, he threw distractions, counterfights, emotional storms, and sudden fear to derail you. But you didn't break. You didn't fold. You didn't retreat. And because of that, angels stand around you now in a way they didn't before. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 19. They will fight against you, but they shall not prevail. For I am with you to deliver you, declares the Lord. This is not just a scripture to you, it is a prophecy unfolding in real time. They fought you, they tried you, they underestimated the God who stood with you. And now the promise in that ancient verse is becoming your present reality. They shall not prevail. Chosen one. The angels assigned to you are not passive observers. These are warriors, strategic, powerful, and deeply loyal to heaven's command over your life. When angels step into formation, they do so with structure. There is rank, there is authority, there is deliberate positioning. Heaven does not send confusion, heaven sends order. And your life is now entering supernatural order. You may sense moments of sudden stillness, as if the air around you is waiting. That is not emptiness, that is alignment. Angels are adjusting the spiritual landscape. They are removing debris. They are silencing voices that tried to manipulate your emotions. They are cutting invisible cords that tethered you to old cycles. They are sweeping away the residue of battles you didn't even realize had drained you. And here is what you must understand. Angels never form around someone who carries no destiny. Their positioning is evidence that your life carries weight in the spirit. You are not just another believer stumbling through life. You are marked. You are chosen. You are a carrier of assignment, purpose, and spiritual authority. Heaven does not send warriors unless heaven intends to move something big. You will begin noticing unusual peace in the coming days, not the peace that comes from rest, but the peace that comes from protection, a peace that doesn't match circumstances, a peace that confronts fear before fear reaches you, a peace that whispers, "You are surrounded." There will be moments where you feel guided, almost as if steps are illuminated the moment you take them. That is angelic influence clearing what once blocked you. Doors that were stuck will suddenly slide open. Conversations that once felt heavy will suddenly shift in your favor. People who once opposed you will find themselves unable to hinder you. This is not coincidence. This is a cleared path. Angels are also guarding your heart in this season. They are redirecting your emotions, steering you away from unnecessary attachments, protecting your purity of spirit, and guiding you away from traps disguised as opportunities. You will find yourself uninterested in things that once consumed you. That is spiritual maturity being enforced by heavenly presence. And pay attention, your dreams will sharpen. Your intuition will strengthen. Your ability to sense motives will heighten. Angels communicate not always with words, but with impressions, sharpened awareness, and sudden clarity. They are ensuring that what once deceived you can no longer reach you. You are entering a season where the enemy's access is decreasing while your spiritual authority is increasing. Your steps are being guarded. Your path is being cleared. Your spirit is being elevated. Angels are not just near you, they are working for you. And all of this is happening because heaven saw your obedience and deemed you ready for greater protection, greater clarity, and greater assignment. You are not walking blindly. You are being escorted. Chosen one. You need to hear this with the full weight of heaven behind it. Nothing you gave up was wasted. Nothing you released was ignored. Nothing you surrendered went unseen. Every quiet sacrifice, every silent choice you made when no one was watching, has been recorded in the spirit. You think your obedience only affected your present, but heaven knows your obedience has shaped your future. There were nights where you held your tongue, even when you had every right to defend yourself. There were moments where you walked away from what your flesh wanted because your spirit knew better. There were days where you chose integrity over applause, purity over pleasure, peace over chaos, healing over revenge. And not once, listen to me, not once did heaven overlook it. Others may have dismissed you, overlooked you, or misunderstood the depth of your sacrifice. But heaven didn't. Every unseen yes echoed louder than thunder in the spiritual realm. You don't even realize how many battles were cancelled because you obeyed quietly. You don't even know how many attacks failed because your purity disrupted the enemy's strategy. You don't even see how many chains fell off simply because you chose the higher road when the lower one begged for your attention. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 15, verse 58, "Your labor in the Lord is not in vain." Now, this is not a verse floating in time. This is a direct confirmation of what is unfolding in your life right now. Your labor was unseen by people, but not unseen by God. Your choices were unnoticed by people, but not unnoticed by heaven. The tears you cried alone, the forgiveness you gave without apology, the boundaries you set to protect your spirit, All of it has been acknowledged, honored, and stored before the throne. Chosen one. Heaven did not simply watch. Heaven responded. Do you know why the atmosphere around your life is shifting? Because heaven has decided it is time to repay what you thought was lost. Because the sacrifices you made in silence have matured in the spirit. Because every quiet yes has become a seed ready for harvest. Your silent obedience has released loud activity in the unseen realm. Angels have been sent to honor decisions you made when you felt weak. Opportunities are being drawn to you because of choices you made when you felt overlooked. Blessings are chasing you because of prayers you whispered when your heart was breaking. Heaven is moving on the foundation of what you gave up, not what you gained. This is why certain people couldn't stay in your life. This is why certain doors didn't open earlier. This is why certain blessings were delayed. Heaven was waiting for your obedience to reach fullness. You were being refined, shaped, fortified, not punished, prepared. You were being sculpted into someone who could carry a greater mantle without collapsing under the pressure. Every time you sacrificed your ego, you gained authority. Every time you sacrificed your desire, you gained clarity. Every time you sacrificed what was easy, you gained what was eternal. You didn't see it then, but you will see it now. Nothing was wasted, and something else is happening, something powerful, because heaven recorded your quiet sacrifices. Heaven is now publicly shifting your path. Where you were once invisible, you will be seen. Where you were once rejected, you will be welcomed. Where you once struggled, you will now stride. There is a divine reversal in motion. Your sacrifices have become your testimony. Your hidden obedience has become your elevation. Chosen one. The spiritual realm has always known who you were, long before you discovered it. That's why you faced unusual warfare. That's why your struggles felt heavier than others. That's why your heart was stretched in ways you didn't understand. Heaven was refining a vessel that needed to carry more than you ever imagined. And now, the season of hidden sacrifices ends, and the season of revealed favor begins. But before we move deeper into what heaven is unfolding, pause with intention. There is something you must declare, not for me, but for your spirit. A prophetic affirmation that signals, I recognize what heaven is doing. Write it, and let it stand as a marker of agreement between you and God. Comment, I receive this. This simple phrase is not casual. When you write it, you are acknowledging heaven's response to your obedience. You are aligning yourself with the movement happening around you. You are saying, I see the fruit of what I sowed in secret, and heaven honors agreement. Chosen one. Your quiet sacrifices have set the stage for the next move of God. In the next section, you will see how the path before you begins to open effortlessly, powerfully, unmistakably. Chosen one. As you continue walking forward, something almost imperceptible begins unfolding around you, something subtle yet undeniable. The path ahead of you is no longer resisting you the way it once did. You can feel it in the air, in the quiet thoughts that rise within you, in the sense of clarity that begins to replace confusion. The path is opening, not because the world suddenly became easier, but because heaven is now actively preparing the ground beneath your feet. For so long, you walked through seasons where everything felt delayed, blocked, tangled, or sabotaged. Nothing seemed to move without a fight. You prayed, and it felt like nothing changed. You tried, and it felt like something pushed back. You stood still, and the ground shook beneath you. You stepped forward, and doors slammed shut. It wasn't incompetence. It wasn't lack. It wasn't failure. It was timing, divine timing, restraining you until the moment your spirit was strong enough to handle what awaited you. And now, that moment has come. You are beginning to witness the shift, not externally first, but internally. Peace where anxiety once ruled, clarity where fog once lingered, understanding where confusion once paralyzed you. This internal shift is heaven's first signal that external doors are about to align. The path opens in the spirit before it opens in the natural. The ancient words recorded in Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 6 declare, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." This scripture is not abstract to you. It is happening around you right now. Paths that were once crooked emotionally, spiritually, relationally, mentally are being straightened, not by human strategy, not by personal strength, but by divine intervention. Heaven is doing the straightening. Heaven is doing the aligning. Heaven is doing the arranging. And here is what makes your journey unique. You are not being given a path someone else has walked. You are not stepping into a recycled destiny. The path opening before you is tailored, crafted specifically for the anointing on your life, for the calling placed within you, for the weight you carry. You were never meant to walk the roads everyone else walked. You were meant for a path carved by the hands of God alone. You will notice this path opening in small ways first. A conversation that brings clarity, a sudden idea that feels divinely inspired, a person crossing your path at the perfect moment, a burden lifting without explanation. This is how heaven begins, gently, subtly, with precision. The path doesn't burst open, it unfolds. There were things that once tripped you, but now your spirit steps over them without hesitation. What used to drain your energy no longer has the power to invade your peace. Situations that once intimidated you now feel small. Why? Because you have grown. Your spirit has expanded. Your discernment has sharpened. You see life from a higher place now, no longer from the ground, but from alignment with heaven's perspective. And something else is happening. The resistance that once opposed you is losing strength, not because the enemy has stopped fighting, but because heaven has strengthened your stance. You are no longer easily shaken. You no longer respond to fear the way you used to. You no longer attach yourself to old wounds. That growth alone is part of the path clearing. You have outgrown cycles that once trapped you. This is why certain things have been falling away. Habits, desire, relationships, distractions. The path cannot open while you are holding on to what is not meant to travel with you. Heaven has been decluttering your life, stripping away what cannot survive your next season. The path ahead requires lightness, clarity, purity of heart. Heaven is preparing you to walk it with stability and confidence. And pay attention to this. Alignment is not always comfortable. Sometimes the path opens through separation. Sometimes through disappointment. Sometimes through closed doors that force you in the right direction. Sometimes through redirection that hurts before it heals. But heaven never removes without replacing, never closes without redirecting, never stretches without strengthening. Right now, the path ahead is being engineered with purpose. The timing is aligning. The atmosphere is shifting. The ground is being prepared. You are stepping into a season where things will begin to make sense, where the battles of yesterday reveal why they were necessary, where the confusion of last year connects with the clarity of this one. The path opens not because of luck, but because obedience has matured into destiny. The angels clearing your way are not clearing random debris, they are clearing the exact obstacles that once hindered you from stepping into fullness. You are not walking blindly anymore. You are walking into promise. Chosen one. As the path opens before you, heaven is not simply clearing the way, you are being invited higher. There is a rise happening within you, a spiritual elevation that feels like being lifted from the inside out. You may not see it with your eyes yet, but your spirit feels the pull like a gentle hand at the center of your chest, drawing you upward. This is the call to rise into a deeper level of surrender, a higher dimension of obedience, and a clearer realm of divine partnership. You have been walking, but now you are being summoned to climb. For so long, you lived at ground level, dodging obstacles, battling distractions, surviving storms. But heaven is calling you to step onto the mountain, to see from above what once overwhelmed you from below. The struggle you feel is not resistance, it is elevation pressure. Just as an eagle rises into thinner air to escape predators, you are being drawn into a place where only the spiritually mature can breathe. Heaven speaks in the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 9. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Law. This scripture is not only instruction, it is invitation. God is calling you to rise into higher vision, higher discernment, higher understanding. Not to think like the world thinks, not to react as you once reacted, but to ascend into a realm where heaven's perspective becomes your own. And rising requires release. Think of a hot air balloon. It can only ascend when the weights are removed. The lifting force is already present, waiting, ready, powerful, but the ropes on the ground keep it from rising. Your spirit is the same. Heaven has already placed the lift inside you, but certain attachments, fears, habits, and old emotions have acted like ropes tied to the earth. And in this season, heaven is gently untying them one by one. Some of these ropes were relationships, connections that drained your peace, blurred your discernment, or held you to old versions of yourself. Some were emotional patterns, self-doubt, comparison, fear of disappointing others. Some were memories that replayed like shadows in your mind. These weights were not removed to punish you, they were removed so you could rise. And as you rise, you begin to see everything differently. What once felt overwhelming now looks small. What once confused you now makes sense. What once intimidated you now appears powerless. Rising changes perspective. Perspective changes. Décision. Décision change destiny. And this is why the call to rise higher is so sacred. It is heaven preparing you for a level of clarity, strength, and purpose you could not access from the ground. Chosen one. Rising isn't always grand. Sometimes it looks like key decisions. Choosing peace over chaos. Choosing healing over bitterness. Choosing discipline over comfort. Choosing God's whisper over the world's noise. Sometimes rising feels like sitting still when everything in you wants to rush. Sometimes it feels like letting go, even when your heart clings tightly. Sometimes it feels like trusting what you cannot explain. But every time you choose the higher road, heaven matches you with greater elevation. And as you rise, heaven is also calling you to deepen your connection, not just spiritually, but relationally. This is a season where community matters, not the crowd, but the chosen circle, the voices that uplift, the people who speak life, the connections that help your wings open wider. That is why, if this message is lifting you, encouraging you, or awakening something spiritual within you, I invite you gently, sincerely, from a place of alignment to stay connected to this flow. If these words are helping you rise, like this message, share it with someone who needs elevation. Subscribe so you don't miss the next piece of what heaven is building in you. And if you feel led, you may even sow into this work. Donate as an act of agreement, not obligation. Think of it like watering a seed in fertile soil. Not payment, not requirement, just participation in the very thing that is pouring into your spirit. A symbolic act of saying, I rise with this. I grow with this. I agree with what heaven is doing. Every time you engage, every time you support, you are stepping deeper into alignment with the upward call on your life. And let this settle into your heart. When heaven calls you higher, it is because something higher has already been prepared for you. The view waiting ahead is not the same as the view behind you. The elevation is real. The shift is happening. The rise has begun. In the next section, you will see how heaven confirms your position through signs, clarity, and divine alignment that cannot be mistaken. Chosen one. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey where heaven no longer whispers. You begin to see the confirmation, and you are now stepping into that moment. Heaven is validating you, marking you, identifying you as one who has obeyed, endured, surrendered it, and remained faithful even when the cost was high. You may not have realized it yet, but unmistakable signs have already started appearing around you. It begins subtly, a sudden inner peace after a month of turbulence, a decision that once felt impossible suddenly becoming clear. A door you thought was permanently shut begins to open a crack. People who once misunderstood you now speak differently. Situations that once drained you lose their power. These are not coincidences. These are heavenly signatures. Heaven is confirming your position. Not because you demanded anything. Not because you fought for recognition. Not because you begged for clarity. But because your heart has proven itself trustworthy. Heaven never places weight on weak foundations. And through every challenge, every tear, every trial, your spirit has become stable, strong enough to carry the next phase of your calling. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." This is who you are becoming right now, not hidden, not overlooked, not buried in shadows, but rising into visibility because heaven has ordained it. A city on a hill cannot hide its glow. Likewise, your anointing, your growth, your transformation can no longer remain unseen. You are stepping into a season where your spirit no longer shrinks to fit environments beneath your calling. The light within you grows too strong to be contained, too pure to be dimmed, too powerful to be ignored. Heaven is positioning you where your glow becomes unmistakable and undeniable. Those who once misunderstood your silence will soon witness your rising, not because you seek attention, but because divine purpose naturally elevates those who carry it. Your transformation becomes a beacon, guiding, inspiring, unsettling darkness wherever it appears. This is the moment heaven reveals what it has been shaping within you. You may notice divine alignment beginning to form. Suddenly, you are in the right place at the right time. Suddenly, people who carry wisdom, encouragement, and spiritual depth are being drawn toward you. Suddenly, conversations that felt empty now feel meaningful. This is heaven arranging your environment. And pay attention, your discernment is sharpening. What once felt confusing now feels defined. What once clouded your judgment now stands clear. What once made you anxious now seems powerless. This is heaven confirming that you are in the right season, on the right path, stepping into the right identity. You are no longer the version of yourself who doubted everything. You are becoming someone who recognizes divine fingerprints instantly. There are also internal confirmations, deep knowing, sudden assurance, holy clarity. You start saying things like, "I don't know why, but I just know what to do. I feel peace, even though nothing makes sense. I feel protected, even though I'm surrounded by uncertainty." These are not emotions. They are spiritual signals. Heaven confirms through peace. Heaven confirms through alignment. Heaven confirms through clarity. Heaven confirms through unexpected strength. And sometimes, heaven confirms through removal. A closed door is a confirmation. A separation is a confirmation. A shift in desire is a confirmation. A lack of interest in old patterns is a confirmation. Heaven does not just open, heaven also ends. And what ends in this season has heaven's fingerprints on it as much as what begins. Chosen one. You are not being elevated blindly. You are being elevated intentionally. Heaven is making it clear to you and to those around you that you walk with divine backing. Your obedience has placed a mark on your life that cannot be erased. Your spirit carries a glow the enemy cannot dim. You are stepping into a version of yourself that heaven has been cultivating quietly for years. But before we continue to the next unfolding, there is a moment of alignment required from you. A prophetic act of agreement. A simple declaration that says, "I recognize heaven's confirmation in my life." If your spirit is resonating with these words, if you feel the undeniable pull of alignment, then comment the number 444 below. Not as a ritual, not as superstition, but as a sign of agreement, an acknowledgement that you see what heaven is doing. Let this number be your signal to heaven. I understand. I receive. I align. Chosen one. Heaven is confirming you because you are ready for what comes next. And in the next section, you will see how old battles begin losing their power as the authority on your life increases. Chosen one. As you continue walking the path heaven has cleared, something profound begins to happen. Old battles that once felt relentless now begin to lose their grip. Conflicts that drained you emotionally, spiritually, and mentally no longer carry the same weight. The shadows that once intimidated you shrink in the presence of the light rising inside you. This is not your imagination. This is spiritual authority solidifying within you. You used to feel every attack deeply. A single word could unsettle your peace. A small disappointment could spiral into doubt. A familiar temptation could tug at the edges of your progress. But now, something in you has changed. You feel a stability that was not there before. A grounding. A strengthening. a divine firmness rising from within your spirit. This is the fruit of obedience and the byproduct of angelic protection surrounding you. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 37 declare, "In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." Pay attention to that phrase, more than conquerors. This does not mean you simply win battles. It means you rise to a level where certain battles no longer require your energy because your authority ends them before they begin. This is the shift happening in your life right now. The enemy used to launch attacks, hoping to distract or break you. But now even he senses the change. Your spirit is no longer easily shaken. Your mind no longer collapses under pressure. Your heart no longer bleeds from the same wounds. Heaven has fortified you. The angels protecting your path have weakened the influence of every old strategy the enemy once used successfully. Where fear once lived, discernment now reigns. Where anxiety once controlled you, peace now anchors you. Where insecurity once whispered, confidence now speaks. You are not just surviving battles anymore, you are outgrowing them. Think of an eagle that once struggled against strong winds. At a lower altitude, the turbulence was overwhelming. But once it rose higher, the winds that once battered it now carry it. That is you, chosen one. You have risen. And when you rise, the nature of the battle changes. What once knocked you down now lifts you up. Many of the attacks you faced in previous seasons were aimed at the version of you that no longer exists. You have matured beyond their reach. Your spiritual armor has strengthened. Your discernment has sharpened. Your sensitivity to the voice of God has increased. Darkness cannot overpower a soul that knows its identity. That is why certain temptations have lost their flavor. Why old wounds no longer sting the same way. Why familiar cycles feel foreign. Why old patterns fail to pull you back in. It is not that the enemy has stopped attacking. It is that you have become too spiritually elevated for those attacks to land. You carry a stability now, a rootedness that makes you untouchable in ways you were not before. And look closely. People who once triggered you no longer have access to your emotional realm. Their words don't sting. Their actions don't destabilize you. Their presence doesn't drain you. Heaven has created a holy distance, an invisible boundary between your spirit and anything that seeks to diminish it. This is a sign of spiritual maturity and divine protection working together. And there is more. Your spirit is beginning to recognize battles before they appear. You can sense motives instantly. You can feel spiritual shifts intuitively. You discern intentions in seconds. This ability is not random. It is the result of walking closely with God and being surrounded by angelic presence. You are no longer blindsided. You are no longer misled easily. You are no longer vulnerable to manipulation or deception. Old battles lose power when you no longer feed them. Old battles lose power when you recognize their patterns. Old battles lose power when your spirit rises higher than their reach. And heaven has raised you. Now, instead of reacting emotionally, you respond spiritually. Instead of panicking, you observe. Instead of collapsing, you stand tall. Instead of fearing loss, you trust divine replacement. These shifts, quiet, internal, transformative, are evidence that the authority on your life is deepening. Chosen one. Battles that once tormented you will soon feel like distant memories. Not because the world is changing, but because you are. The version of you that fought in the dark is not the version walking forward now. You have stepped into a new spiritual stature, and heaven recognizes it. Angels recognize it. Even darkness recognizes it. You are no longer fighting for survival. You are walking in victory. And the old battles simply cannot follow you into the new season. In the next section, you will feel the mantle on your life begin to shift, expanding your authority, your calling, and your divine identity. Chosen one. As the old battles fade into the background, another transformation begins, quiet at first, then unmistakable. You feel it like a weight settling gently on your shoulders, not heavy with burden, but heavy with purpose. The mantle on your life is shifting. What once fit you no longer does. What once defined you now feels too small. Your identity is stretching, expanding, rising into something heaven placed within you long before you took your first breath. There are moments in life when you outgrow a season, and then there are moments when you outgrow a version of yourself. This is the latter. Heaven is not merely elevating your circumstances. Heaven is elevating you. Your spirit is undergoing a shift, a maturation, a strengthening, an activation. You are stepping into spiritual authority you didn't know you carried. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 1, I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me. This is the posture your spirit is stepping into, a watchful, elevated, aligned stance where you no longer move from reaction, but from revelation. You are learning to stand at your watch, not scrambling in fear, but holding your ground with clarity and authority. This is the evidence of a mantle awakening. A mantle is not a title. It is a responsibility woven into your spirit. It is a divine assignment that compels you to rise above what once limited you, and you feel that pull now, don't you? The sense that you are meant for something deeper, something higher, something more spiritually impactful than the life you've known. This shift feels like several things at once. A deepening seriousness in your prayers, a stronger sensitivity to spiritual atmosphere, a growing distaste for superficial or empty pursuits, a pull toward purpose that refuses to be ignored. Your spirit is shedding its old skin. This is why certain environments now feel too loud, too shallow, or too draining. This is why your heart no longer tolerates what once entertained you. This is why you've been losing interest in conversations that lack depth or direction. Heaven is reorienting your desires, sharpening your focus, tuning your inner ear to frequencies you once overlooked. And understand this, mantles always come with weight, but never with confusion. Confusion is the language of the old season. Clarity is the signature of the new one. When a mantle rests on your life, clarity begins to flow in places where you once struggled. You begin discerning purpose not with effort, but with ease. You begin seeing through situations instead of being tangled in them. You begin recognizing the spiritual meaning behind what others dismiss as coincidence. People may not understand what's happening to you. They may say you've changed and they're right. They may say you act differently and you should. They may sense the weight of your presence, and they will. This is what happens when a mantle shifts. Heaven places visible authority on you. You walk differently. You speak differently. You perceive differently. You carry a presence that makes others pause without knowing why. Even darkness recognizes it. You will notice that certain spiritual attacks no longer reach you, not because the enemy isn't trying, but because your mantle shields you. You stand taller in the spirit. You stand firmer in authority. You carry an anointing that pushes back what once overwhelmed you. And with this rising comes separation, not as punishment, but as positioning. You may feel yourself drifting from people who cannot carry the weight of your next season. You may feel distance growing between you and those who are content, staying where you used to be. You may feel heaven gently pulling you away from noise, drama, and distraction. This is not loss, this is refinement. Heaven removes what cannot accompany your mantle. And here is something you must embrace. Mantles awaken responsibility, not pressure, but purpose. You will feel compelled to walk with intention, speak with wisdom, choose with discernment, and move with spiritual awareness. The things you do now matter. The words you release carry power. The presence you bring into a room creates shift. This is the evidence of heaven's investment in you. And the mantle on your life isn't just about who you are becoming, it's about what you are being entrusted to do. You are being prepared to influence, to guide, to lift, to protect, to awaken others through your transformation. Your life becomes a vessel, and your journey becomes a message. Chosen one. This is not a small change. This is a spiritual promotion. This is heaven recognizing the maturity forged through pressure. This is your mantle expanding to match the calling written on your soul. And in the next section, you will see how this mantle begins, guiding your footsteps with divine precision. Chosen one. As the mantle on your life shifts and settles into its rightful place, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Your footsteps start becoming directed with a clarity you have never known before. You are no longer wandering. You are no longer second-guessing. You are no longer questioning every move you make. Heaven is guiding you with precision, and your spirit is beginning to recognize the rhythm of divine direction. Where confusion once clouded your path, clarity now lights it. Where hesitation once limited you, confidence now propels you. Where uncertainty once paralyzed you, discernment now empowers you. This is not random personal growth. This is spiritual leadership. You are being led from the inside out, and heaven is illuminating each step at the exact moment you need it. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 33, verse 14. My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest. This is the foundation of your steps now, presence-guided movement, not guesswork, not emotional reaction, not fear-driven decisions. You are moving under divine escort. The presence of God is not following behind you, it is going with you, before you, around you, and within you. And with this guidance comes a new kind of awareness. You begin to sense when a door is not meant for you. You feel a tightening in your spirit when you're about to take a wrong step. You feel a gentle peace when you're aligned with God's will. You start walking, not by sight, not by logic, but by spiritual instinct trained by heaven itself. This is why certain paths you once chased now feel empty. Why certain invitations feel wrong even when they look right. Why certain opportunities don't stir your spirit the way they once did. Heaven is reprogramming your direction system, and you will notice something else. Timing begins to make sense. What once felt like delay now feels like protection. What once felt like loss now feels like redirection. What once felt like unanswered prayers now reveal themselves as answered prayers in disguise. Heaven was never late. Heaven was strategic. chosen one. You need to understand this. Divine direction rarely reveals the whole journey. God gives you the next step, not the next 10. He lights the path gradually, not instantly. You are being guided like a traveler walking a torchlit trail, one illuminated step at a time. This is not to frustrate you, but to teach you trust. And trust is the currency of spiritual direction. You are learning to trust when God says, go. And 4. To trust when God says, wait. And 4. To trust when God says, not here. And 4. To trust when God says, this way instead. And 4. The clearer your spirit becomes, the more obvious heaven's signals feel. You will start noticing how your heart reacts to certain environments, opening in some, closing in others. You will notice how your peace behaves, settling or stirring, confirming or warning. You will notice how conversations feel draining or elevating, distracting or divine. Heaven uses your spirit as a compass. And now, because your mantle has shifted, your internal compass is sharper than ever. You are no longer walking in circles. You are no longer repeating cycles. You are no longer misreading signs. Your steps are becoming precise, divinely calculated, spiritually aligned. But remember this truth. Divine direction sometimes leads you away from what looks comfortable. Sometimes it pulls you out of familiar surroundings. Sometimes it requires you to walk alone for a moment. Sometimes it asks you to take risks that don't make sense to others. But every time you obey that inner nudge, heaven rewards the step. You are being trained to move with certainty even when visibility is low. To move with boldness even when others doubt. To move with faith even when logic disagrees. This is what happens when angels guide your path. Your steps become too ordered to fail. Your life will begin to show signs of divine choreography. A chance conversation aligns with a prayer you whispered months ago. A closed door reveals a protection you didn't realize you needed. A sudden shift pulls you into the right timing. All of it orchestrated. All of it intentional. All of it guided. And as your footsteps become directed, heaven waits for your agreement. Not in fear, not in hesitation, but in conscious recognition. So before we continue, you must anchor this moment with a declaration simple, short, yet spiritually powerful. Comment, lead me. Lord, write it as a sign that you choose direction over confusion, alignment over wandering, and divine steps over human striving. When you declare it, heaven interprets it as permission to guide you more deeply. Chosen one. Your steps are no longer random. They are chosen, ordered, protected, and divinely aligned. And in the next section, you will watch barriers crumble before you, not by force, but by the authority you now carry. Chosen one. As your steps become divinely directed, something even more powerful begins to unfold before you. Barriers that once stood like towering walls now begin to crumble at your approach. Obstacles that once seemed immovable start cracking. Situations that once resisted you now yield. The very ground that used to oppose you begins opening beneath your feet, making room for the destiny heaven has assigned to you. This is not because you suddenly became stronger. It's because heaven has shifted the atmosphere in your favor. The angels who have been guiding you are now moving ahead of you. They are dismantling traps you never knew were set. They are uprooting barriers long planted to slow you down. They are weakening structures the enemy built to block your progress. You are walking into a season where barriers don't just fall, they fall because you arrive. The Spirit spoke through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 91, Verse 11. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. This is not poetic language. This is a spiritual reality unfolding in your life. Heaven has issued commands on your behalf. Angelic directives, divine orders. You are not walking into open doors by chance. You are receiving the results of spiritual intervention. Imagine yourself walking through a dense forest. At first, the branches snag your clothing. The vines tangle around your legs. The thorns scrape your skin. But then something changes. The path begins to widen. The branches pull back. The undergrowth parts. You look around and realize you are no longer fighting through the forest alone. Invisible hands are clearing the brush, lifting the thorns, smoothing the ground. What once felt exhausting now feels guided. That is what heaven is doing for you in this season. Or think of a river blocked by boulders. The water crashes, churns, struggles to find its way. But then, one by one, the stones begin to shift, not through force, but through divine timing. Water finds new pathways. Flow returns. Movement becomes natural. This is your life right now. What once blocked your flow is being supernaturally rearranged. And you will start noticing the evidence. A problem you stressed about suddenly resolves itself. A meeting you dreaded unexpectedly turns in your favor. A relationship that brought confusion peacefully dissolves. A door you thought was locked swings open without warning. This is not coincidence. This is clearing. This is realignment. This is heaven's orchestration. Chosen one, you are stepping into a season where effort is replaced by flow. The intensity of struggle is replaced by the ease of grace. The exhaustion of pushing is replaced by the momentum of purpose. When heaven clears your path, you don't have to force progress. You simply follow the direction already prepared for you. And as you walk, heaven will place divine helpers along the way. People who speak life when you need courage. People who open doors you could not open. People who recognize your gift, your value, your calling. These individuals are not random. They are assigned. Heaven aligns people the same way it aligns circumstances. But hear this: when barriers fall, responsibility rises. You are stepping into territory that requires intentionality, focus, and spiritual partnership. And if this message has been guiding you, feeding you, and helping you discern your season, then I invite you gently and sincerely to stay connected to this well. Think of it like traveling through a long journey and finding a lantern that lights the road ahead. If the light helps you see, you stay near it. If the warmth strengthens you, you return to it. And if you want to support the flame so it continues to burn for you and others, you add oil, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. So, if these words are speaking deeply to your spirit, like this message, share it with someone walking through their own barriers. Subscribe so you remain aligned with every prophetic step ahead. And if you feel led, you may even donate, not as obligation, but as participation in the light that is guiding you forward. It is simply an act of saying, "This journey matters to me. This voice matters to my spirit. This path is part of my rising." Unquote. And let me tell you this with certainty. When heaven partners with a chosen one, Nothing, no barrier, no delay, no opposition can remain standing. You are walking into a season where barriers will not just break, they will break before you reach them. In the next section, you will see how your discernment sharpens, giving you the ability to see what others overlook and recognize heaven's movement instantly. Chosen one. As barriers fall and your steps align with divine direction, another sacred transformation begins to unfold. Within you, your discernment sharpens in ways you could not have imagined in earlier seasons. What once felt blurry now becomes clear. What once confused you now reveals its true nature. You begin to see beyond the surface, beyond the noise, beyond the appearance of things. It is as though heaven has adjusted the lens of your spirit, allowing you to perceive what others overlook. This sharpening is not merely intellectual. It is spiritual sight, insight, foresight, inner knowing. You begin sensing situations before they unfold. You feel the spiritual weight of a person before they speak. You recognize the intention behind words, not just the words themselves. You see the difference between what is from God, what is from your own emotion, and what is sent to pull you away from destiny. The ancient words preserved in the book of Hebrews, chapter 5, verse 14 declare, "But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil." This is the season you are in spiritual maturity, not in the sense of age, but in the sense of depth. You have been trained by experience, refined through challenge, sharpened by battles you did not choose but survived. You have learned to listen with your spirit, not your ears. You have learned to see with discernment, not with sight. You have learned to trust intuition shaped by heaven, not impulses shaped by fear. And because your discernment is sharpening, certain things no longer fool you. You can sense imitation. You can detect manipulation. You can feel hidden motives. You can recognize spiritual traps. You can identify the counterfeit before it reaches your heart. You are no longer pulled by emotional storms. You are no longer blinded by flattering words. You are no longer deceived by familiar spirits wearing new faces. Heaven has trained you through pressure, and your spirit now stands like a watchtower, elevated, alert, awake. This is why some connections recently felt heavy or off, even before anything happened. Your spirit identified what your mind had not processed yet. This is why certain invitations felt wrong, even when they looked perfect. This is why your heart felt hesitant, even when logic told you to move forward. Heaven is teaching you to detect danger in its earliest form, not its final stage. Discernment is your shield. Discernment is your compass. Discernment is your spiritual early warning system. And with sharpening discernment comes another gift, the ability to separate truth from emotion. You are beginning to understand when your feelings speak and when the Spirit speaks. You no longer assume every desire is divine. You no longer mistake impulses for instruction. You no longer confuse urgency with direction. This is growth. This is maturity. This is evidence that heaven has elevated your inner perception. Chosen one. Your sharpened discernment is also preparing you for divine connections. You are being positioned to recognize the people who are meant to walk with you. Not everyone from your past belongs in your future. And heaven is giving you the spiritual clarity to distinguish between the temporary and the ordained. You will sense who carries peace and who carries distraction, who carries wisdom and who carries emptiness, who carries purpose and who carries chaos. And do not miss, this sharpened discernment does not only expose danger, it reveals opportunity. You will start noticing doors heaven opens more quickly. You will sense when timing is right. You will feel divine nudges that guide you into rooms where favor is waiting. Discernment does not only protect, it promotes. This new depth of clarity also explains why silence has become more comfortable for you than noise, why solitude feels peaceful instead of lonely, why you listen more than you speak, why you feel the need to withdraw before important decisions. Heaven is training your inner environment to reflect the clarity of your outer steps. And with every passing day, you notice how your spirit responds differently to life. You pause before reacting. You discern before deciding. You observe before attaching. You pray before acting. This is evidence of spiritual evolution. You are no longer who you were even months ago. Heaven has refined your senses. You are seeing through illusions that once controlled you. You are detecting spiritual dynamics hidden beneath the surface. You are stepping into a realm of perception only those with calling can carry. Your discernment is not merely a gift, it is your armor, your guide, your protection, and your advantage. Heaven sharpened it because the next season requires precision, not guessing, clarity, not confusion, insight, not impulse. Chosen one, you are being equipped to recognize heaven's movement instantly. And in the next section, you will feel how this clarity leads you into a season of divine acceleration where the delays of the past break and momentum begins to fill your life. Chosen one. As your discernment sharpens and your spirit rises into clarity, something powerful is happening around you. Your life is entering a season of divine acceleration, not human momentum, not forced progress, not rushed decisions. This is heaven-sent acceleration, the kind that happens when delay has run its course and purpose demands movement. You have walked through years, maybe even decades of waiting, pruning, refining, preparing. You have felt seasons stretch longer than you expected. You have endured pauses that felt like denials, setbacks that felt like punishment, and stillness that felt like abandonment. But heaven was not punishing you. Heaven was preparing you. Acceleration without foundation destroys people, but acceleration with maturity elevates them. And now, because you have allowed heaven to shape you, strengthen you, purify you, and open your spiritual sight, the delays that once held you in place are breaking off. The timing of heaven is no longer distant, it is arriving. According to what is revealed in the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 13, the days are coming when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman, and the planter by the one treading grapes. Oh, this is acceleration. This is divine speed. This is heaven collapsing time on your behalf. What once took years will take months. What once took months will take weeks. What once took weeks may happen suddenly. Heaven does not operate on human calendars. Heaven operates on readiness. And you, chosen one, through obedience, refinement, and transformation, are ready. Acceleration begins in the spirit before it appears in the physical, and you may already feel it, a sudden urgency in your spirit, not anxiety, but holy momentum, a stirring inside you that whispers, "Move now." Oh, a sense that something is shifting. even if you can't explain it yet. A pressure that is not meant to crush you, but propel you forward. This is the wind of heaven behind your back. Acceleration also reveals itself through alignment. Suddenly, pieces that never fit now click effortlessly. Connections form without striving. Opportunities approach without you chasing them. Conversation redirect your life. Ideas come with clarity. Your spirit feels carried, moved, lifted, as if invisible hands are guiding you forward. And pay attention to this. Acceleration does not mean chaos. It means flow. Divine speed does not confuse. It clarifies. It does not exhaust. It energizes. It does not overwhelm. It aligns. Heaven is removing what slows you. Heaven is closing what distracts you. Heaven is canceling what drains you. Heaven is pushing you onto the path where progress is inevitable. The enemy fought you hardest in the seasons leading up to this moment because he sensed what you could not yet see: a breakout, a breakthrough, a shift into supernatural movement. You will find yourself accomplishing more with less effort, doors opening without knocking, people recognizing your value without explanation, situations rearranging themselves to bless you, paths smoothing beneath your feet. It is not luck. It is not coincidence. It is not random. It is divine acceleration. But with acceleration comes responsibility. You must remain spiritually sensitive. Acceleration is not permission to rush ahead in your own strength. It is an invitation to walk in sync with heaven's pace. Move when you feel the nudge. Pause when your spirit tightens. Listen carefully. Heaven is leading each step. Chosen one. This acceleration is a sign that heaven trusts you, that God sees you ready for more, that you have passed tests others never saw, that you have matured through storms that would have broken a weaker soul. Heaven rewards faithfulness, and acceleration is one of its greatest rewards. But before stepping deeper into this unfolding momentum, there is a prophetic act of alignment you must make, a declaration that signals your readiness to move with heaven's timing. If your spirit is resonating with this message, if you feel the winds of acceleration in your life, then write the number 888 inches, the comments, not as superstition, not as ritual, but as a sign of agreement, a declaration that you align with the season heaven is ushering you into. Chosen one. Acceleration is here. Momentum is here. Divine timing is here. And in the next section, you will see how heaven begins cutting off every enemy, distraction, and drain that once had access to you, because acceleration requires protection. Chosen one. As acceleration begins moving through your life like a divine current, heaven initiates another crucial shift. Your enemies, distractions, and spiritual leeches begin losing access to you. What once reached you easily now hits a barrier. What once drained you now falls short. What once found you now cannot locate you. Heaven is not only propelling you forward, it is protecting the path beneath your feet. This is the season where heaven builds distance. This is the season where God says, no more. This is the season where separation becomes salvation. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 54, verse 15. If anyone attacks you, it will not be my doing. Whoever attacks you will surrender to you. This is the signature of divine protection now settling over your life. You are no longer exposed. You are no longer vulnerable. You are no longer spiritually accessible to forces that once manipulated your emotions, weakened your boundaries, or whispered discouragement into your spirit. Heaven has drawn a circle around you, and not everything and not everyone can cross it. Some losses were not accidents. They were evacuations orchestrated by heaven. Some endings were not failures. They were closures demanded by your destiny. Some separations were not betrayals. They were divine removals. You must understand this. When God elevates someone, He always protects the elevation. Not all people can survive the altitude of your next season. Not all relationships can breathe in the thin air of purpose. Not all voices can speak into your calling. Heaven will remove anyone who threatens your peace, your focus, or your growth. This is why old friendships have faded quietly, why familiar environments no longer feel comfortable, why certain people who once had emotional influence over you suddenly feel distant, why your heart is no longer drawn to what once tempted you. Your spirit has outgrown the spaces your body remained in. Now heaven is aligning your environment with your elevation. And understand this. Enemy access is not only about people, it's about patterns. Patterns of overthinking. Patterns of emotional dependence. Patterns of self-betrayal. Patterns of seeking validation. Patterns of exhaustion disguised as loyalty. These patterns once gave the enemy footholds in your life, but now, heaven is breaking them one by one. You are no longer feeding cycles that fed on you. You are no longer watering seeds that produced anxiety. You are no longer participating in battles that steal your peace. In this season, God is silencing voices you once mistook for your own thoughts. He is dismantling lies you carried for years. He is healing wounds that created openings for spiritual attack. He is restoring boundaries that were broken by manipulation and guilt. You will notice the shifts internally before they manifest externally. The urge to explain yourself is disappearing. The need to please everyone is dissolving. The habit of shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable is ending. Your spirit has become too aligned with heaven to tolerate what dishonors your calling. And as you rise, your enemies will begin revealing themselves, some through their silence, some through their response to your elevation, some through the tension they feel in your presence. When heaven marks someone, darkness senses it. People who were comfortable when you were wounded become uneasy when you heal. People who thrived on your insecurity panic when you gain clarity. People who manipulated your softness cannot handle your boundaries. This exposure is not meant to harm you. It is meant to free you. Heaven is cutting access. Heaven is closing doors. Heaven is protecting your ascent. And the more heaven removes, the lighter you become. The lighter you become, the faster you accelerate. The faster you accelerate, the harder it becomes for anything unassigned to keep up. This is divine strategy, speed as protection. Pay attention to how your spirit responds. Now, you feel unsettled around certain people because your spirit is warning you. You feel exhausted by certain conversations because your soul no longer resonates with them. You feel disconnected from certain environments because heaven has lifted you above them. Trust these signals. They are not emotional, they are spiritual. And when heaven protects you, it is always complete. Not partial protection, not temporary protection. Complete, total, unshakable protection. This is why certain doors will never reopen, why certain temptations will never return with the same power, why certain relationships will never revive, why certain spiritual attacks will never strike with the same intensity. Heaven has repositioned you, distanced you, shielded you, chosen one. The enemies that once had access to you have been denied entry. You are stepping into a realm of divine protection so profound that even the enemy can sense he has lost his grip. And in the next section, you will feel your spirit becoming unshakable, standing in boldness, strength, and unwavering confidence as heaven continues to fortify your path. Chosen one. As heaven cuts off the access of your enemies and clears the atmosphere around your life, something begins to rise within you, something deep, unscient, unbreakable. Your spirit begins to stand in a strength you did not have before. You feel it in the way you think. You feel it in the way you speak. You feel it in the way you move through situations that once overwhelmed you. Your spirit is becoming unshakable. For so long, you lived in survival mode. You reacted to every storm. You absorbed every emotion. You felt every shift too deeply. Your spirit was tender but unprotected, gifted yet vulnerable, called but still forming. And through every trial, every testing, every long night of wrestling with uncertainty, heaven was forging something in you, resilience. Not the resilience of the world, not the toughness built on avoidance, not the numbness built on trauma, but the resilience forged in the presence of God. Strength that doesn't harden you, but deepens you. Courage that doesn't inflate your ego, but humbles your soul. Boldness that doesn't roar, it radiates. As was spoken in the writings of Paul in Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 10, "Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." This is the kind of strength rising in you, a divine strength, not a human one. Strength that flows from heaven into your spirit like a current of quiet power. Strength that allows you to stand in peace while others panic. Strength that keeps you calm in rooms filled with chaos. Strength that makes you steady in seasons of uncertainty. Your spirit is not fragile anymore. The things that once shook you now barely move you. The words that used to wound you now bounce off your peace. The fears that once controlled you now dissolve before they reach your heart. The doubts that once whispered loudly now fall silent in the presence of your clarity. You have been stretched, refined, emptied, rebuilt, and now you are grounded. Not grounded in circumstances, not grounded in people, grounded in identity, grounded in the God who walks with you, grounded in the truth of who you are becoming. This is why you feel different lately. Not detached, strong, not cold-rooted, not defensive-wise. Your reactions are calmer, your thoughts clearer, your emotions more stable. You are not shrinking to fit situations anymore. You are showing up with the fullness of who you are. And with this unshakable spirit comes a new boldness, quiet but undeniable. You no longer avoid speaking truth. You no longer apologize for your calling. You no longer dim your light to avoid judgment. You no longer bend yourself to keep others comfortable. Heaven did not raise you to blend in. Heaven raised you to stand. Standing does not mean being loud. Standing does not mean fighting every battle. Standing does not mean proving anything. Standing means remaining, centered in who God has called you to be, unmoved by pressure, unmoved by opinions, unmoved by storms. You have learned to stand when everything around you shakes. You have learned to remain when others walk away. You have learned to trust when logic fails. You have learned to continue even when strength felt impossible. This is what makes your spirit unshakable. It has been tested in fire and found worthy of purpose. And people will notice. They will feel the shift in your presence. They will sense the change in your energy. They will recognize the stability in your voice. They will see the peace in your eyes. Not everyone will understand it, but everyone will feel it. When heaven establishes someone, the earth responds. This unshakable spirit also begins to alter the dynamics around you. Some people will be drawn to your strength because it brings clarity. Others will be intimidated by it because it disrupts their illusion of control. Some will admire you. Some will pull away. Some will be inspired. Some will feel exposed. This is normal. When you rise in strength, it reveals where others are still weak. But hear me clearly, your rising is not meant to shame others. It is meant to guide them. Your stability will become a lighthouse. Your calm will become a signal. Your growth will become a testimony. Your transformation will become an invitation for others to step into their own. Chosen one. An unshakable spirit is rare, and heaven entrusted it to you because you have reached a point where your heart is strong enough not to misuse it. You carry authority without arrogance, clarity without cruelty, boldness without pride. This is the kind of strength God can trust. You are becoming someone who does not crumble emotionally, spiritually, or mentally when pressure increases. Instead, you rise, you anchor, you stabilize, you embody the peace you once chased. And in the next section, you will see how this unshakable spirit opens a new realm of favor. Doors that once rejected you will begin to open in your presence. Chosen one. As your spirit becomes unshakable and heaven fortifies your inner foundation, something long awaited begins to shift around you. Favor. Not ordinary favor. Not momentary favor. But a realm of divine recognition that surrounds those who have been refined, humbled, tested, and proven faithful. You are stepping into a realm where doors that once rejected you now open of their own accord, where rooms that overlooked you now take notice, where opportunities that once seemed distant now lean toward you. Favor is not random. Favor is a spiritual echo, heaven's response to obedience, endurance, and internal transformation. You are not merely rising, you are being revealed. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 3, He calls His own sheep by name and leads them out. This is not only about guidance, but about recognition. Heaven is calling you by name, separating you from the crowd, drawing you into visibility, leading you into spaces crafted specifically for your destiny. Your name is being spoken in rooms you have never entered. Your presence is being requested in environments that once ignored you. Your value is being seen by eyes that were previously blind to it. Favor feels like the world suddenly tilting in your direction. But in truth, it is heaven tilting you toward purpose. Imagine a sunbeam breaking through thick clouds, landing on a single flower in a vast field. That flower doesn't chase the light. The light finds it. That is what divine favor looks like. You do not strive, push, or force. Heaven simply shines on you in ways impossible to replicate through human effort. Or imagine a key that fits no door until suddenly, in the right season, it unlocks many. You are that key. The doors weren't wrong. The timing wasn't ripe. Now, the alignment is here. The lock and the key are finally meeting. Chosen one. This realm of favor manifests in many forms. A conversation that shifts your direction. A yes that replaces years of no. A person who sees what others overlooked. A sudden alignment that feels almost unreal. This is not coincidence. Favor always follows transformation. But favor is also delicate in its early stages. It requires awareness, humility, and gratitude. Heaven gives favor to reveal you, not inflate you, to position you, not distract you, to elevate you, not separate you from your dependence on God. This is why staying connected to spiritual guidance matters deeply in this season. You are no longer walking into familiar places. You are entering new territories with new expectations, new responsibilities, new eyes watching you. And if this message has been walking with you, strengthening you, and giving clarity to your spirit, then allow me to say this sincerely, gently, and without pressure. When you like, you help the message land in places where other chosen ones need guidance. When you share, you become a vessel heaven uses to lift another soul. When you subscribe, you remain anchored to the stream of direction God has been pouring into you. And if you feel led, when you donate, you are not giving to a person, you are adding oil to a lamp that has been lighting your path. Think of it like dropping water into a well that has quenched your thirst, or supporting the fire that kept you warm in the long night. It is not obligation, it is partnership, a way of saying, I honor the voice heaven is using in my journey. But beyond all of that, there is something else. Heaven is asking of you in this moment a declaration, a signal that you are ready to step into this realm of favor fully and without hesitation. So before we go deeper, take a moment to comment the phrase, I welcome favor. And for just 3 words. But they carry agreement. They carry readiness. They carry alignment. When you declare it, you are not asking for favor. You are acknowledging what heaven has already begun releasing. Because chosen one, the favor coming to you is not small. It is not temporary. It is not fragile. It is a mantle-sized favor, aligned with your identity, your calling, and your future. And in the next section, you will understand how this favor ignites your calling, fully awakening everything heaven placed inside you long before you knew your own name. Chosen one. As favor begins to settle on your life like dew on morning grass, another shift, perhaps the greatest of all, begins to unfold inside you. Your calling ignites fully, not partially, not quietly, not in fragments, but in fullness, in clarity, in maturity. Everything heaven has planted within you, everything that has been growing beneath the surface, everything that has been waiting for the right alignment now begins to awaken. The calling on your life is not something you stumble into. It is something that has been woven into your spirit since before your birth. You have felt it since childhood, those moments of sensing you were different. That inner tug towards something deeper, the unusual sensitivity, the heightened awareness, the ability to feel what others overlooked. These were early signs, early sparks. But now, the spark becomes flame. As the Apostle Paul wrote in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 6, He has made us competent as ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. This is what is igniting within you, not a calling based on rules, roles, or external assignments, but a calling rooted in spirit, A calling that flows through your identity, not your effort. A calling that grows from your transformation, not from your striving. A calling that speaks through your life, not merely through your words. Your calling ignites when heaven determines. Your spirit is ready, and you are ready now. This ignition begins with awareness. Suddenly, you see threads of purpose woven through your past. You understand why you survived what others could not. You see why certain doors never opened because they weren't aligned with your calling. You see why certain people drifted away. They were not meant to walk into your assignment. Your entire life begins to make sense through a divine lens. Where you once questioned, now you understand. Where you once felt lost, now you recognize direction. Where you once felt unqualified, now you feel chosen. Ignition also brings focus. Distractions lose their shine. Lesser goals fall away. Emptiness is replaced with intention. It becomes harder to engage in meaningless conversations or pour into spaces where your spirit is not fed. You find yourself craving depth, purpose, clarity. You are not becoming distant, you are becoming defined. There is also a fire rising within you, a holy urgency, not rushed, not pressured, but purposeful. You wake with thoughts that weren't there before. You feel compelled to grow, to listen, to rise, to expand. You sense heaven nudging you, pulling you into alignment with assignments that match your identity. Your calling speaks through new desires, the desire to help, the desire to speak truth, the desire to grow spiritually, the desire to walk in purity, the desire to protect your peace, the desire to break generational patterns. These are not random. These are signs of a calling awakening. You also begin noticing that your presence affects environments differently. People open up to you without knowing why. Strangers sense something in you they cannot name. You walk into rooms and the atmosphere shifts not because of force, but because of the weight you carry. This is spiritual authority revealing itself. And hear this: when your calling ignites, you become aware of your impact, not in arrogance, but in responsibility. You begin to understand that your words matter, your energy influences, your decision ripple. Heaven is entrusting you with influence because your character has been refined enough to handle it. Ignition reveals your gifts. Gifts that were dormant now awaken. Words flow more clearly. Creativity increases. Wisdom comes naturally. Compassion deepens. Discernment sharpens. You begin operating in abilities you did not train for because they were always inside you. You may feel drawn toward prayer in a new way, toward learning, toward helping others heal, toward creating, toward leading, toward writing, toward mentoring, toward stepping into roles you once feared. Your calling is stretching you, not to break you, but to introduce you to the version of yourself heaven has always seen. And with this ignition comes identity. You no longer wonder who you are. You no longer chase validation. You no longer fit into roles that diminish your spirit. You walk with quiet confidence, steady peace, and holy direction. Chosen one. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. This ignition will not fade. It will grow. It will strengthen. It will anchor you. Purpose fuels endurance. Calling fuels clarity. Identity fuels stability. You are no longer wandering. You are no longer guessing. You are stepping into destiny intentionally. Your life is no longer a collection of random moments. It is a divine storyline. And heaven is turning the page. The next chapter will not be written around your pain, but around your purpose. Chosen one. Your calling has ignited. And in the next section, you will walk the cleared path fully, confidently, carrying everything heaven has placed within you. Chosen one. Now that your calling has ignited and the fire of purpose burns within you, something even more profound takes shape. You begin to walk the cleared path. Note, imagine it. Not hope for it. Not pray for it. But walk it. Every step you take now carries a sense of certainty, alignment, and divine partnership. You no longer feel like you're wandering in a wilderness. You feel guided, supported, and accompanied by the very hand of heaven. This path is not new. It was carved long ago, long before you were aware of it. Your obedience uncovered it. Your refinement prepared you for it. Your discernment positioned you on it. Your rising spirit now walks it with confidence. The difference between the old path and this one is not the terrain, it's you. You have changed. You have grown. You have become someone who can walk what heaven has assigned. The apostle reminds us in his writings in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 25, since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. 1. This is exactly what is happening in your life. You are keeping in step with the Spirit, not ahead, not behind, aligned, connected, synchronized. Each step feels intentional, guided, purposeful. You no longer force movement, you follow it. You don't chase clarity, clarity comes. You don't cling to control, trust leads the way. And with every step, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time, freedom. Not emotional freedom only, but spiritual freedom, mental freedom, soul freedom. The freedom that comes when heaven clears what used to confuse you, binds what used to drain you, and elevates what used to diminish you. You breathe differently on this path. You think differently. You respond differently. You walk differently, lighter, steadier, taller. Walking the cleared path also means you navigate life without the weights that once slowed you down. The doubts that once paralyzed you no longer speak with authority. The fears that once whispered threats now fall quiet. The opinions that once shaped your direction now have no influence. You are walking from identity, not insecurity, from clarity, not confusion, from calling, not survival. This path also brings alignment, divine encounters, purposeful opportunities, meaningful conversations, and holy connections. God begins sending people who reflect the new version of you, not the old one. People who pour into your growth, not your wounds. People who speak life into your calling, not fear into your future. People who recognize your value because heaven revealed it to them first. And on this path, you will notice something else. Your past no longer pulls at you. The things that once tempted you feel distant. The cycles that once trapped you feel broken. The memories that once haunted you lose their sting. You walk forward without constantly looking back. The future pulls stronger than the past ever did. This is how you know you are on a cleared path. Your spirit stops fighting to survive and starts preparing to build. Walking the cleared path also means responsibility. Not heavy responsibility, but sacred responsibility. You understand your life carries assignment. You carry yourself differently because you know heaven walks with you. You speak with intention. You move with purpose. You rise with awareness. You rest with trust. You show up as someone who knows they are guided. And the more you walk, the more you realize. Heaven removed obstacles not just to make life easier, but to make you effective. You were never called to remain hidden in the fog of fear. You were never meant to stay stuck in cycles that blinded you. You were meant to walk boldly, purposefully, confidently into the fullness of who God made you to be. Chosen one. Your steps now echo with destiny. Every move you make carries the sound of alignment. You walk as someone heaven has touched. You walk as someone angels guard. You walk as someone strengthened through fire and refined through pressure. You walk as someone who knows the weight of purpose and the gentleness of God's guidance. And perhaps the greatest change of all is this: you trust the path ahead. You trust the one who cleared it. You trust the process that shaped you. You trust the future heaven is leading you into. There is no more wandering, no more grasping, no more spiritual exhaustion. Just walking steady, grounded, aligned. Chosen one. You are walking the cleared path now, and as your footsteps echo forward, heaven whispers behind you, "This is the way. Keep going." End of 2. Chosen one. Pause here with intention. You have walked through every stage of this message, from obedience to angelic movement, to clarity, to elevation, to purpose. Heaven has been speaking to you, shaping you, strengthening you, and preparing you step by step. And now, as this journey comes to a close, let these final words settle into your spirit like a seal placed gently over everything you've received. You are not the same person you were when you began reading. Something in you has risen. Something in you has awakened. Something in you has aligned with heaven's voice. You have been reminded of who you are: chosen, protected, guided, refined, and destined. Heaven has not just watched your journey, it has authored it. And every insight you felt, every confirmation that stirred in your chest, every moment of recognition, it was heaven revealing your true identity back to you. But before you walk forward into the next stretch of your cleared path, take a moment to breathe in what has been given to you and exhale the last remnants of the old season. You are stepping forward, lighter, clearer, stronger. And if this message has touched your spirit, if it lifted you, strengthened you, or aligned you, then I invite you, from a place of sincerity and gratitude, to stay connected. Like this message so it can reach another soul who needs it. Share it with someone whose spirit is searching for confirmation. Subscribe so you never miss the guidance. Heaven continues to pour through this space. And take one final step of alignment. Leave a comment below about what part spoke to you the most. Let your words become a testimony, not just for you, but for another chosen one who may read it at the exact moment they need hope. Heaven has walked with you up to this moment, and heaven will walk with you from here.